fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery with your hosts, Eric Shapiro, David North Martino, John Copenhaver, and Al Warren. 106.5 FM Los Angeles,
102.3 FM Riverside,
and 105.0 AM Palm Springs.
Welcome back into the House of Mystery, and of course this is an award exchange sort of program episode, so for you softies listening, listen anyway and send Dave the mail.
That's right.
Dave.
I'm waiting.
Yeah, Dave, you have to get ready for this one.
Yes.
I
emptied out all the other emails and ready for it to come down.
Yeah. It's a good time. It's all a good time. Anyway, so the power of social media. I came across this guest on social media originally, and I just love, as much as I hate social media, I love it too, because I've met so many great people and had so much fun through it. And I think it's great. It's just all how you use it. So, and of course, we're going to talk a little bit about the controversies and about his work, and it's fantastic. So let's welcome Reuben Kaye. Thank you for being here.
It is a pleasure to be here. I mean, I'm in a hotel room in Montreal, so how much of a pleasure could it be? But being on the podcast with you is a pleasure.
Well, I don't know. Montreal's a lot of fun.
If I could get out of this hotel to see it, but it just for laughs, all these comedians live in this hotel, all the comedians perform in the hotel, and all of the agents and writers and the networking happens in the hotel. It's a sort of, I don't know, it's a 14-story Shark Tank.
This is interesting because you've I find you very direct in your show, and sometimes it causes trouble, right? Because we're in the times now where people are very, and Dave and I were talking about this earlier, because it's kind of a time where I think if you were doing the show in the 90s, it wouldn't be what it is now. That's not saying it right. There wouldn't be so much of the fighting that's going on that we get through social media because of it. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Social media definitely opens up the debate for everyone to have an opinion, warranted or not, valid or not. And everyone is allowed to have an opinion. They're just not allowed to think that their opinion is valid or more valid than everyone else's. But if I was doing what I was doing in the 90s, perhaps it wouldn't get as much exposure as it does now through social media. So it's a double-edged sword, really, of social media giving me the exposure to give my material and my message and do what I do, and giving me an audience. But the backlash of that, the other result of that, is that also I get all of the hate, all of the prejudice, all of the bile as well.
Do you actually have a message then when you're doing a show? If someone comes to see you right now, comes to see you, you're in Montreal now, so they come see you in Montreal. What is it they should get from that show?
It's an interesting thing because the show spans across several different genres and bits of material. It's very filthy, it's very dirty, it's very queer, but also it's quite political and at times a little sentimental. And what I tend to get is queer people, trans people coming to my shows and coming up to me afterwards and saying, I felt for an hour I could be myself in a public place. I get queer parents of queer children bringing their kids of a certain age, obviously 16 and over, 14 and over, if they think they can deal with the material, to the show as an example of a queer person living in the public eye successfully. And I sometimes even get young queer people bringing their parents to the show as an example of a queer person living their life in the public eye successfully. I think queer people are being politicized more and more, and our existence is being politicized. So what I get to do, I mean, yes, there's transgression in the politics. Yes, there's transgression in the obscenity. But at the heart of it, there is a stalwart reclamation of defining my own existence as a queer person and spreading a message of sort of absurd, chaotic joy and rebellion. People have to remember that Pride started as a riot, and celebration and protest in queer circles and the LGBTQIA plus community have always been interconnected. And that's what I'm interested in. I think there's an amazing tension in that it might not be present if I weren't to do what I do, if I were doing something else.
Do you ever worry about the negative response or
no.
the backlash or anything like that?
If it impacts the safety of others, then it's an issue. And it was in Australia when I went on national TV, and purely from that appearance at national TV, my agent suddenly had to start having meetings with state police bodies. My phone was confiscated and combed over by 4 separate state police bodies. Gigs were cancelled because the threats threatened not just my safety, but the safety of the audience and the safety of the businesses in the area, all because it was a queer person on stage not being the butt of a joke, but making the joke, not being the political football, but commenting on the game.
Well, how do you deal with the criticism? Can you just slough it off, or does it affect you personally?
No, absolutely. I think you would have to be almost superhuman to not let that amount of negative feedback, let's say, or hate mail, let's call it what it is, affect you in some way. But I have to have a steely resolve, and you have to go, no, if you're pissing the right people off, because these people are not my target audience also, right? The shows I'm making aren't really for them. They were never going to buy tickets to, a Jewish puff singing songs and telling jokes, right? It gives me a steely resolve. I strengthen my backbone. I square my shoulders. I set my jaw, and I know I'm on the right path because I know the audience that I'm writing for. I know the audience I'm performing for. And first and foremost, I'm performing for my community and my family who are not feeling safe.
Yeah, it's really kind of a weird time. I can't tell you how much bad mail I get at periods. The strangest thing to me is some people seem to follow it. They'll listen to the show and send 3 times a week. And I'm always thinking, well, why are you listening to the show?
This is the other part. This is the other part. Like in social media, the motto is all content is good content. So you get all these people writing hate mail on your commenting on your posts or my posts, and you get all these comments, and they actually drive the algorithm. They drive it further up the algorithm because the algorithm just sees increased traffic. It doesn't place a value judgment on what you're doing.
Right.
So in many ways, it's that great Liberace thing of him coming out and going, you like my rings? You paid for them.
And it's true, That's right. So that comment, that one in Australia, was that the one on the show about the you love Jesus and a man getting nailed?
Yes.
Was
yes,
that
it
the
was.
one?
It's a joke I've been telling for over 10 years because I'm loath to let anything go. But I was receiving a little bit of, because I gained some popularity on TikTok, and because of TikTok's universality, the ubiquitous nature of it, it opened me up to a huge audience of people who might not necessarily be my target audience, and these people are mainly, to use a politically correct term, religious whack jobs. And so I was getting some religious hate mail. And you know what? Religion is fine. It's a lovely teddy bear to hold in the dark if you're not up to reading a book. And I said on the show, I tend to get a lot of people in the comments saying you have to accept Jesus' love or you will burn in hell. Which is a ridiculous comment because, and this is what I said on the project, I love Jesus. I love any man who can get nailed for 3 days straight and come back for more. Which, when you break it down, is just a pun. It's just a dad joke. But my goodness me, did Christian people in Australia, or a certain subsect of Christian people, not all Christians, lost their damn minds, took to the streets, waving crosses, chanting the Lord's Prayer outside my agent's office and calling for me to be crucified, which is the dumbest thing also, because it happened around April. And if they really read their scriptures or had any sense of it, they would see the irony in trying to publicly crucify a Jew that close to Easter. Because when you think about it, isn't Easter really the only festival the Jews get to win?
Yeah. Boy, I tell you, that's exciting. It makes my nipples hard.
That's all I'm here to do. Now we can attach some hooks to it, and you can haul me over to you.
Oh boy, where did this start for you? And I mean this in a way of, did you always know you were going to be doing this? Is this something you were, like I was a little kid into radio. I mean, I had 50 radios at age 6, and that's all I listened to was old shows and talk shows and everything. I was a freak at it at a young boy. Is this something you've started since you can remember, performing?
Oh, I think definitely, even in the womb, I was sort of doing a time step. I was raised in a very Jewish, German, Russian household in Melbourne. My family came over, they survived the war and came over, and my mum escaped from East Berlin. She actually escaped the war, came to Australia, went back to East Berlin to build communism, and we all know how that worked out. So she escaped from East Berlin and came to Australia. And my dad was born in Paris as his family were coming through post-war Poland after spending the war building railroads for Stalin. It's a whole thing. And that's not even talking about my uncle who was a bank robber in East Berlin. And so I was raised in this outrageous family, and the TV was never off. It always had West Side Story or a Marx Brothers film. In fact, the first film I ever saw was the Marx Brothers Night at the Opera. It had Chaplin, it had Keaton, it had Danny Kaye movies. So I was really sort of raised with this in my blood, and I grew up watching Jackie Mason and Joan Rivers, Judy Gold, I'm on a bill tonight with Judy Gold, who I used to watch as a kid. That's outrageous to me. So for me, I was really steeped in a comedy, vaudevillian, musical theatre sensibility. And as a kid, I was a really performative kid. I used to force my parents to watch me put on shows in the living room where I would reenact the great deaths of opera, which is the campest thing anyone's ever done. I would have like bags of raspberry syrup stuffed in my clothes so that when my brother stabbed me as Carmen, and I was in full drag at 7 years old, I would have blood spurting out onto the floor while I lay dying. They would have to watch me kind of pretend to be Ophelia and dunk my head in a bucket of water, or be Tosca and throw myself off the back of the couch. It was always very camp. It was always very melodramatic. So I think they looked at me and went, I don't think he's going to be a lawyer.
Well, so where does it come from? And I asked this a lot of different artists, writers, actors we've had everything on. Yeah. And so where does the art come from for you? Where do the ideas come from?
Oh my God, the ideas come from everything. My phone is a constant 63 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. But I think it's adorable that you all use Fahrenheit. It's so universal. I'm constantly writing things down in my phone. Everything gives me an idea from, like, for instance, yesterday they were doing the housekeeping in the room and I had to come in. I had to start painting my face for a gig. And I kind of was like, don't finish the room. I'll just start painting. I don't want to interrupt you. You can go off. And so she said, no, I'll stay and finish. And this lovely woman just very calmly did the housekeeping, made the bed and did all that stuff while I'm painting in drag, and she never stopped looking. Never said a word, never stopped looking. I was so fascinated by that. So that's going to be in the show. A lot of the stuff comes from my family. I've got a pretty incredible family story, and I think as a family that has survived the Second World War, it's part of my duty as an artist to tell that story, in many ways to hope that we don't repeat the same mistakes, which we're doing currently.
Right.
Yeah. I think there's also stories the stories come from everywhere, and I think every artist is a thief, and the only thing you can do is try to disguise how well you steal. What's that great quote? Great artists steal, great artists steal, bad artists borrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to magpie. You have to magpie everything. And I think if you only steal from one or two sources, everyone goes, "Oh, that's derivative, right?" But if you have thousands of influences, if you have and you grab from a little something from everything, it all coheres and sort of creates something completely unique that people can't pick. but it's also, it should be uniquely from you because it's your taste and your taste is unique.
Right. Yeah. You've got to put yourself into it and hope it comes out the right way. What do you think's going on in the world then? What's the issue, in your opinion? Like, you know, I noticed a lot of complaining about, of course, the, drag and trans world is getting it the worst. You know, and the reading, you know, library reading by drag queens and stuff like that. What's going on with this whole thing? Why do you think it's so? Well, I don't think it's
about who's getting it the worst, because I think there are a lot of communities suffering right now. But we're in a moment where politics are very happy to play optics and play the drama of politics to avoid making policy. And that means using communities as political football, using communities as wedges to drive culture wars, to divide people. And I think education has a huge part to play in this. Lack of education, not investing in education, not separating church and state, allowing prejudice to be seeping into the education system. I think it breeds and then defunding healthcare. I think it breeds a sick population that can't critically think, and that means they're more likely to be scared. And a scared population is much easier to control and manipulate. And that means that anyone who's in a minority or a cultural minority is going to get hit hardest. It's disabled people, it's queer people, it's black communities, it's Latinx communities, it's all these people who are on the lower rungs.
It's karate communities like Dave.
Yeah, karate. That's what we should be marching next.
So, you know, I'm ready. I'm ready to go out front. Start yelling against these guys doing karate. What are they thinking? It's a conspiracy.
They're coming for the kids.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They're grooming us.
Yeah.
I'm too old to be groomed. I do it voluntarily anyway, but it's just, who's your favorite audience? Where was your favorite place to play so far?
Oh, I had
Canadians?
Great. Do you know what? When we got to do the show in Sydney finally after the cancellations, that was a really great crowd. They'd been through a lot. You know, there were police outside, there were bag checks, there were metal detectors, and that's very rare for a comedy audience or any theatrical audience in Australia to have that kind of stringent policing of it. And there was something electric in that room because we all knew we were in a history-making gig. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. The audiences here in Montreal have been so savvy, so quick. I've really loved them. Do you know what? The best audience I think we had was in London on the night the Queen died in Soho. It was electric. And the venue said, please don't necessarily open with any anti-monarchy stuff. I don't know what you want to do, Reuben, but maybe just lay off it because of the sensitivity. And I got out there and I think I did 20 minutes on the monarchy and how
oh my
they are. And the crowd went nuts. It was like bedlam. It was fantastic. The crowd in Soho for my show, The Butch is Back, which we're bringing to Edinburgh, went absolutely wild. And it was brilliant. We were tearing the theatre apart. One time, and another one, I guess me and my music director, Shannon, went to a town in Melbourne, just outside of Melbourne, called Daylesford, Hepburn Springs, Daylesford. And it was just him, me, a piano, and a bottle of vodka at this tiny club. And the gig was meant to last an hour. It lasted 3 hours. At one point, I was behind the bar serving shots while singing numbers. It was loose. It was reckless. It was so fun. And it was just to this country town. They didn't know what hit him. It felt almost sort of cinematic and apocalyptic of this tiny bar in a country town. It's like, I could be murdered at any moment. Let's keep singing.
Don't try that in a small town.
I don't want. It's fine. My butt plug's Kevlar.
No, I know.
I'm protected.
Yeah. So what do people get in the show? Like you sing, you do everything, right? So what's the show? It's kind of explain your show.
They come in all different shapes and sizes. I have a show here so in Montreal, we're doing my show Live and Intimidating, which is me and a 3-piece band. And it's sort of a political dissection of hate mail and hate crimes. And this current debate we're having, it's born out of the controversy of this TV appearance. But for us, the cornerstone of these shows is also always the music and how the music plays a counterpoint. There's something really sublime about having gorgeous, beautiful music, quite strident politics, and matching that with deep obscenity. Because then the audience is continually snapped back and forth between what their expectation is and what I'm giving them. And I think there's an element of, if the politics are too much, there's always a nice song. If the songs you're not a fan of, there's always filth. And if you don't like the filth and you want something media, there's the politics, And, of course, I look stunning, if I do say so myself. I'm tall and statuesque. I look like the Babadook if he was glammed up. And then the show we're doing in Edinburgh, the Butch is back, which we're touring around Europe and the UK for the rest of this year, is an autobiographical show about my father's life and coming out and parents and children and masculinity and the apocalypse, the missing link. And it's a 6-piece it's a 6-piece band horn section. The music is outrageously good. It's incredibly dense. And then we're culminating that tour. We're ending that tour in a 2-hour version of the show in London, in the Purcell Rooms at Festival Hall on South Bank, which I can't wait for. And then we have a late night show called the Kaye Hole, which, if you don't know what that is, Google it, but don't press image search, is a late night sort of post-punk queer protest party where me and a rock band take my favorite acts from around the world or whatever fringe festival I'm playing in, and I tell the acts, get angry, get drunk, get naked, get on stage. And it's full nudity, it's loose, it's hot, it's steamy, it's queer, it's messy, it's fucking hilarious. I don't know, it's sort of...
It sounds like Dave's show.
Right?
I was waiting for that.
It harks back to, I think, the birth of cabaret and what I think cabaret truly is, which is the original punk before electric music came in. It's immediate to the time, and it also has the vibe of a secret gig, a rock concert, a speakeasy. No, sweaty, dirty, secret. It's the best. Yeah. I really do get to play with this whole gamut of being in highfalutin arts festivals, playing in state theatres, and then playing in garages and bunkers and sweaty 20-seater venues. It's a really lovely and exciting existence to make work, and a great environment to make work in.
Wow. Yeah, that does sound like a Dave show.
I can't wait. I want to see a Dave show now.
I'm naked right now.
Yes.
Right now, this is the show?
He's already naked. I'm
already naked. I'm doing video right now for OnlyFans while we're talking.
Fantastic. I'll subscribe.
Yeah, well, he's got to make a living somewhere.
Yeah, right.
You do what you have to. Did you write your own music then, too?
We are writing originals as well. We do covers and originals. I think it's very interesting to give the audience, when the content is so dense, to be able to then give them 1 or 2 covers that they know, so that there's a landing point, a little bit of a respite for them. So, for instance, in this show, Live and Intimidating, we have a gorgeous cover of Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow, the Carole King classic, as this sort of standalone moment in the show where everything stops, and we think about the nature of living in a public life, being queer in a public life, hate mail, what an audience's response to an artist is. And then the delivery of that song is sort of a slightly mournful and provocative counterpoint, or questions the audience. Yeah, you're looking at me now, you're laughing along, but is one of you going to send me a death threat later? Is one of you going to pull out a gun? I don't know. Are you going to love me tomorrow as much as you love me tonight?
Maybe someone will throw their dead mother's ashes at you.
Oh, the dream. I'm running out of setting powder as it is.
I couldn't. That's what someone did to Pink. Hey, you see that? Oh my God.
Did they?
Yeah, she's singing, and they had their dead mother's ashes, and they threw it up at her on stage, and she stopped the show, and then she found out what it was. It was a shock. It was just everyone didn't know what to say.
Well, you don't know what it is. Someone's throwing powder on you. It could be cocaine. It could be anthrax. It could be anything. Your dead mum's ashes. What a wish. My mum wants her ashes funneled into the salt and pepper shakers at her favourite restaurant. And the problem is, McDonald's only does sachets.
Yeah. Oh, that's, yeah. What's it, when you're talking about your father in that one show? So, and how is that for you and your family and stuff? How do you decide what you're going to talk about?
I decide what I'm going to talk about. I decide what I'm going to talk about based on what the show needs and what is true and what I'm making. And then my family has to, I think, understand that, I'm not making things up. Making things up, and I don't think any family relationship is perfect. But my family has to know that I love my dad. I loved my dad. My dad loved me. We were very proud of each other and supportive. And the show says that and states that, but it also doesn't shy away from the complicated nature of children and parents, fathers and sons, and parents of queer children in the early 2000s, when there wasn't the representation, there wasn't the understanding, there wasn't the education.
Right.
And I think there's a moment where I don't think I treat him unfairly. I think I explain to the audience exactly what a wonderful human being he was. It's actually not about passing judgment on someone. This is about explaining a situation and hoping that future parents watching or children watching can take a little something away from it as either a cautionary tale or a lesson learned. And I hope that it brings families closer together.
Well, and that's important. I grew up, of course, Dave and I grew up we're a little bit older than you, of course. So, for me, coming out in the 80s and stuff like that, it was a totally different scenario. So, I understand. Like my dad too had he was quite the character. But people a lot of times when they hear some of the stories, they think, oh, what an awful man. And it's like, well, no, it's not that I'm saying that. It's just he is a product of what he grew up with his parents.
That's exactly. We can only express ourselves in the vocabulary we've been given, to a certain extent. And I don't think a lot of men are given in society the vocabulary that they really need or deserve, quite frankly. And I'm not saying that they have no agency in this. We all have agency to work on ourselves and do that. But, that journey looks different for everyone, and some people are taking that first step from halfway through, and some are doing it from, day dot.
So you're going to go see Barbie?
I can't wait. I'm a Barbenheimer fan through and through. I'm seeing Oppenheimer at the IMAX. I'm going to get very high, and I'm going to watch Oppenheimer at the IMAX. And then I'm going to hope that giggle high continues, and I'm going straight into Barbie. I want Margot Robbie. I want Ryan Gosling. I want the full fantasy. I want Greta Gerwig. I want pointed toes.
Well, there you go. Dave just saw the Oppenheimer. So
that's 70 millimeter IMAX.
Oh, the dream.
Yeah.
The dream. You speak in my language.
Yes.
You can't see it or hear it now, listeners, but I am so erect at hearing that.
There you go. It's like Dave every day.
Yeah.
They had to stop the filming. It was terrible.
Oh my God, the human Cialis.
Yeah, the IMAX broke down.
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah,
God.
in the middle of Dave's. Yeah, he's there to do the review, and it broke down. And it's only because he was in his karate outfit and erect and all erect, and it's like everybody ran.
Look, at least that karate outfit is absorbent and white. No one will know what the hell is going on.
Right.
Well, there were no lamps in there to knock over, so, projectors. That's all I could do.
There's just a very suspicious shadow going up against the screen.
Oh, it's awful, I'll tell you. So, you're fantastic. I just want you to know. It was more, we really wanted to put you on the show, talk to you a little bit and show you some support and tell you how much I think it's important doing what you do. And I think that it means a lot to people. And you probably don't always know that, but hopefully you do. And I think, anything you need, just keep on going. We're really in support of you,
Thank you so much.
We're out there.
It's so lovely to see the response that this has sort of gotten globally has really been, sure, it's a mixed bag, and there are haters and there are, certain, let's say, undesirables. But so much love, so much support has come through this. And the one thing I think of is, because that support is so visible, it really makes a difference to the people who are watching all of this unfold, who might think, oh, I don't have the courage to face something like that. I don't have the courage to come out. I don't have the courage to live my life authentically. And if they see moments like this, where someone is in the spotlight or the bullseye, and they see the rest of the world rallying around them, it really sends a fantastic message.
Yeah, and because I'm sort of taken back in a sense of some of the response you got on some of the things you've done, and I see some of the news clips, and some of them are so negative, and I'm just thinking, it just seemed like it was the 90s, like for me, and I used to do makeup for a lot of the drag queens that were performing that came to Seattle back in my old college days, because I used to work at the makeup counter.
Oh, amazing.
For Estee Lauder. Yeah.
Oh, that is so camp. That is great.
But I thought, I don't know why, I thought the fight had been won, Madonna, and I really thought this was it. You know what? We're making it. And it's all, we can leave all that bad stuff behind, and we're going forward, and things were great, or going to be great.
It's so interesting.
Better for the next generation.
I used to think the same thing. When I first started this iteration of my career with this, I made the decision I'm going to be in drag, and I'm going to be doing queer, this thing. I kind of thought, oh, well, this will be irrelevant in 5 years. Look at how fast progress is happening. Same-sex marriage is being legalized, et cetera, et cetera. And then as the years have gone, I've gone, no, this is more relevant now than ever. What I'm doing is more relevant to the world and me than ever.
I'm hoping that it's a cycle that'll pass and we'll get through it. I did a book back for the 1920s of Leopold and Loeb. And talking about, in Germany, about how big the cabarets were, like you mentioned, about how the gay cabarets and everything, it was so big before the Nazi regime came in. And it just such a change, of what happened. But I'm just hoping that we don't have to go through that again, I
don't have an answer for that, because I used to think, we couldn't possibly, but every day there are new monstrosities. I mean, the USA is, at last count, I think it's step 7 of the 10 steps to genocide that are recognized by the Human Rights Associations, the International Human Rights Association. So I don't have an answer for that. I just know that we have to keep fighting and keep living our lives.
Oh, for sure. So now, when are you going to write a book?
Well, there might be something in the pipeline. First, I'm going to have to learn how to read. But there could be something in the pipeline at the moment. And I'm doing a short list of titles at the moment as well.
Yeah, I could imagine.
I was thinking about doing sort of my life as a musical, but set in a late night kebab shop, and I could call it Halal Dolly. I thought it could be kind of nice as, I don't know, Miss Pelvic Flawless, 1984. That'll be quite nice. But at the moment, I'm writing something called Journey to the Center of Attention, and I think that's a real nice. That clinches it at the moment for me. But if anyone out there has a good idea for a title, shoot me a message.
Well, now, so speaking of shooting on you, actually,
what a segue! Let's go.
Yeah. No, I was going to say that actually. So how do people get a hold of you? Do you do social media yourself? Are you around on social media like TikTok?
I am indeed. I am so accessible, it's actually possibly dangerous for my mental health. You can find me on Instagram at Reuben Kaye. You can find me on TikTok at Reuben Kaye. You can find me on Facebook as Reuben Kaye. It's pretty much open slather across all forms of social media. I'm on Threads, even though I hate it. I'm on Twitter, but that's mostly for the porn. Yeah. I'm around. I got a website, ReubenKaye.com. Keep it simple. And I can't wait. This is my first time in North America, and I'm just having the best time out here. I want to explore the rest of I want to come down to America and explore the rest of this amazing continent.
Yeah, it's pretty. There's a lot of great places to see and a lot of great people to do.
I was actually, I'm bringing suitcases of lube. I was actually meant to come to Seattle in the Christmas of 2019. I was meant to come for Christmas to do. Do you know Kitten and Lou in Seattle?
I don't, but yeah.
Kitten and Lou, they have a Christmas pageant, a queer Christmas pageant for the month of sort of November, December for Christmas. Yeah. And I was meant to be a guest on it. And 2 days before I was meant to fly, I went in for a little sinus operation and the breathing tube sliced into my larynx. And I stopped speaking for 3 months. So I had to cancel last minute my appearance, and I was devastated. It was going to be my North American debut, my United States debut, and I was so excited, and I had to cancel it. So, I owe you one, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Emerald City. Well, it's a pleasure talking to you. We're going to have your stuff all over the place, too. We'll have it up so people can find you with one click when they go to our website, and, it'll be thrilled. I mean, they'll be excited. It'll make your nipples hard, please.
Could they get any harder?
Cut glass.
That's me. I'm basically a jewel. I'm a jewel anyway. I think of myself as a diamond. I love to be polished, and I'm best sat atop the fingers of the wealthy.
Yeah, story of my life, but they don't care anymore now that I'm 60. It doesn't, I'm old now. So
there's a market. You're a daddy now. You're a daddy. You got to find
That's what
yourself.
I'm told. Yeah, that's what I'm told. I've got to get out there that, daddies are in. I keep getting told that, but maybe I'll get out there and find out, Dave takes all the, attention.
Yeah.
Him and his body and wearing a dress and all that.
Yeah.
So, everybody looks at him. They don't care about me. It's nice of him to help this old man out, is what they say. Stuff like that.
Oh, that's lovely. So halfway between a colleague and a carer.
Yeah. He pushes me around in the wheelchair and helps. Well, Reuben, this is fantastic. I know you're a busy guy and got lots to do. So anyway, we appreciate being here. And again, our guest, Reuben Kaye. Thank you.
This has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Reuben.
You've been listening to the House of Mystery radio show. To find out more about our guests, hosts, or shows, go to www.houseofmystery.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Yeah. Good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.